Hey there, take two. If you're just joining me and you're expecting me to be taking off, so a little bit of a technical glitch. I looked back through some of my footage and, well, I took off about 45 minutes ago out of a little landing strip here in the Kuril Islands in south of Russia, south of northern Russia, I guess. On my way to Japan. I looked at my footage as I was flying because I was having some problems with my screen capture, and apparently I recorded 3 minutes of myself explaining my email inbox. So rather than show you that footage and try and dub over some rambling comments, I thought I'd just join this flight.
500.
Flight L123 en route from a little landing strip in the Kuril Islands, and on my way to Iterup, also in the Kuril Islands, but in a part of the islands that are disputed between Japan and Russia. So both countries, Japan and Russia, claim the island where I'm headed to. It's been in dispute since the Second World War, but I don't think really anybody lives there. But there's a little airport that will be kind of my last stop, an intermediary stop, after spending a lot of hours. Just gonna have a look here. If you look at my flight time, 46 hours I've been in this plane. And if you've been following along, I am flying from North America. I took off about 2 months ago from my home airport, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. We have an international airport just like a 20-minute drive from where I live. And I've been flying in this little Cessna, point A to point B to point C, just all in real time. One airport to the next airport. I'm going to make my way around the world, probably over the matter of a few years. We'll see how it goes. I've been flying for about 2 months, as you saw, about 46 hours logged, and yeah, I'm just headed south here and hopefully going to get into Japan, where I hope to spend a couple weeks, at least a couple weeks. I've been doing a lot of long haul flights, and I will admit that, you know, part of this was a big push to get over to this part of the world. I really enjoyed flying over places I was familiar with in Alberta and British Columbia, and then up towards Alaska. But after I sort of left that Alaska, maybe about Anchorage, I would say, after I left Anchorage and I flew over Alaska, and Alaska is beautiful and Russia is beautiful. It's all very beautiful, but there's just not much to see. It's just rolling mountains and more mountains and more mountains and some rivers and then some more mountains. And as you see, I just flew over the caldera of a volcanic island. We're in the Pacific Ring of Fire here as we make our way down this chain of volcanic islands. And if you were to swoop all the way down, this little chain turns into Japan, which turns into kind of not much, I guess, but extends out and would be, I think, part of, or Hawaii would be part of this ring of volcanoes as well. And so this is upwards of the Russian end of that. But I'm making my way. I've got about, well, probably another 2 hours left in this flight, maybe a little more. 220 nautical miles. It's going to be a long haul, but yeah, like I said, hopefully this is the last of these long hauls, and then we'll do some more scenic flying. I think I'm going to hit Asia, and I'm just going to flights of maybe 50 to 75 miles rather than these 200-mile long flights, and do more touring around. Look at the scene, look at the building, look at the architecture, all this great stuff. But yeah, so this is my mid-flight picking up partway in. I flew, like I said, about 45 minutes and tried to record another screenshot, and the video capture didn't work, and I went to kind of debug that on one window, and it turned out, yeah, it was me talking over my email inbox. So as exciting as that might be for video, I think we'll stick to the simulator. In an alternate universe, I actually should have been in a plane right now. I was supposed to have spent an hour-long weekend that just passed. It's Tuesday evening right now. Kind of hanging out late in the evening, playing some flight simulator, flying over these actually very cool land formations out in the ocean here. But I should have been on a flight. I was supposed to be in Chicago all weekend. Probably, you know, kind of poking around the city, eating some pizza, running the Chicago Marathon actually, and that all got canceled. Flights got canceled. We were able to get a refund on our hotel, which was good, because that would have not been a nice little pill to swallow. But instead, thanks to worldwide pandemic, no travel for us, or anybody actually. I don't think many people are going too many places this year, and you know, that was kind of driven home for me in particular. You know, Thanksgiving as a Zoom call, and you know, quiet family meal with just a few of us here, just the immediate family, and missing out on a really cool vacation. Which is kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing here. I mean, if you've been watching some of my videos, this was about a virtual vacation, a virtual trip that was never going to make up for the fact that we missed out on all these other opportunities to travel this year. If you're fortunate enough to be like me, where you can take at least one or two vacations a year, whether that's a couple small ones or, you know, a big 2 or 3 week vacation. Usually we go somewhere for, you know, a week, and then maybe a long weekend. Like, we're supposed to be in Chicago for 5 days, which was a quick trip for Chicago, but, you know, still, it's a getaway. If you're fortunate enough to have that opportunity, have the ability to do that, then, you know, this was not a year when that was going to happen, and that was definitely the case for me. So instead, I thought, well, you know, I'll do this little around the world trip in a flight simulator. And I know this game's been out for a couple months, and when I first started playing it, everybody else, everywhere I looked, it seemed to have YouTube videos about people playing this, and I'm sure they're still out there, but, you know, most of those reviewers have moved on to other newer games, because new games are released all the time. And if you're still looking for flight simulator content, I'll be here for a little while, posting a video, hopefully once or twice a week if my technology allows. And yeah, I'm going to try and fly around the world. Well, I can't fly around the world. And every time I log in, they've made the world a little bit better. They've tweaked it. They've got rid of some of the weird glitches that were happening with architecture and buildings being, you know, 100 miles tall, or pits in the earth. I think some of that's been cleaned up. But going along, the further south I get here, the definitely closer I get to the equator, the imagery, the satellite imagery is improved. And I can already tell by some of these landscapes and these land formations that, you know, this trip is going to get even more interesting the closer I get to more populated areas and the further I get from the middle of nowhere. And as you can tell, there's not many houses or buildings on these islands. I haven't seen hardly any, but I'm sure people visit. I'm sure people stop over, explore. I don't know. I'd be interested to know. But for now, I'm just gonna wave as I go by and keep making my way south. So we're about 2 hours into this flight. This is another long flight. Let me tell you, I've been catching up on my 90s sitcoms on Netflix while I've been in between recording stints on this video, but just kind of keeping this thing on the straight and narrow. But just as those clouds came out of my blocking my view of the horizon there, I noticed the tip of the island appear, and that's our destination today. Well, about halfway down that island. That's a fairly long island. It's probably 40 miles long, 40 or 50 miles long, so we're going to go about halfway down that, so probably another 30 miles to the island, another, well, yeah, 25, 30 past it, so we're past the tip of the island, down halfway down, and there's an airport kind of tucked in down there. And I changed airspace, but I'm still in Russian airspace, so I was passed off to the Yuzhno-Selesnysk Tower, which I'm not sure where that is, but zooming out, it kind of encompasses a very large triangle that goes probably over into Siberia. Yeah, so not quite in Japanese airspace yet. I think Japanese airspace is like really right in Japan. But this island that we can see up ahead, and I don't know if that gives you a better view of it right from the cockpit there, but you can sort of see the land mass just below the clouds, and that's that island that I was mentioning is that disputed landmass. The Japanese and the Russians fought over that in the Second World War, and as of 2020, Japan claims sovereignty over that, but Russia doesn't let anybody live there. So it's kind of owned and named by Japan, and in spirit by Russia, so it's a disputed island. That's my understanding from my skimming of the Wikipedia page. And yeah, other than that, we're over the Sea of Okhotsk, which, my Russian pronunciation notwithstanding, is just a little sea at the edge of the Pacific Ocean. So if you look out that way, way that way, probably 300 miles that way, you'll hit Russia. If you look out that way, well, you can see one of the other islands. But if you go past that, you're out in the wide open Pacific and headed back towards North America. But this way is Japan, and we're almost there. So I will be landing in probably half an hour or so, but hopefully that's just a few seconds for you. I'll check in a bit. I've got just over 7 miles, 5 minutes until we're on the ground. I think I can see the runway up there on the right edge of the screen, just above the console, little brown strip. It's kind of going almost east to west. So I'm just gonna zip down along the side there and see if I can take my approach the right direction. In previous posts, in previous flights, I've talked about some of the clearance that I need to land at some of these airports, and having not gotten that clearance at some airports, which was confusing because my first, I don't know, dozen or so flights were in North America, and lots of managed ATC airports. And what I was reading, I did some reading about flying and landing specifically around air traffic control, and how not all airports, here we go, interrupt. Not all airports are air traffic control airports, which makes sense. Sometimes you have to announce what your intentions are to land air traffic control, but there's obviously no tower at a place like this. There's no on-site air traffic control, so they're not giving clearance so much as you're just advising. And imagine if there's another plane around, which, again, I'm in the middle of nowhere playing multiplayer, and this is the last two flights I haven't seen anybody at all. So I'm expecting when I go back into Japan I'll see a few more people out and about, but as of right now no one's around here, so not really required to have too much air traffic control. Wouldn't make much sense to have somebody sitting in a tower out here, that's for sure. And I'm going to try and get my descent here. They usually say is that you want to have a vertical descent of about 500, which is 500 feet per minute. And I'm at 1700, and I would say that airport's probably around 200 or 300 feet of altitude. So we're going to have to get down here pretty quick. Go about 3 miles. Drop my flaps. A little settlement over there.
1233 miles southeast to land. Lazy Lima 123 tower. Make straight in runway 31. Altimeter 29er decimal 9er to wind 278 at 8.
Ah, speaking of.
Lazy Lima 123 cleared to land runway 31.
Cleared to land runway 31.
Wind 278 at 8.
So we're on approach for runway
Cleared to
31.
land runway 31 Lazy Lima 123.
And I talked about this in my, oh, going too high, I guess. Drop some altitude there really quick. Talked about this in previous videos, but I'm not a pilot, but I did work at an airport. I cut the grass at an airport in my 20s, I guess. When I was in college, I got a job at a regional airport in Alberta, and I had to get my operator's permit to drive around a runway.
500.
And what I learned, one of the things I learned a lot, but one of the things I remember is how they number runways. And if you take the last digit off of your heading, so you see I'm going 304. Technically, I should be like runway 30, but this is runway 31, so, you know, close enough. Going a little dead stick here. Also notice I'm almost out of fuel. There we go. A little bit of gas. Really close. Alright, touchdown right at the bottom. There we go. Iterup Airport. Whether you call this Japan or you call it Russia.
Lazy Lima 123, exit runway when able.
We're gonna scooch down to the apron there. We'll park it. There you go. We'll try and figure out if I'm in Japan or Russia, but I'm gonna call this Japan. I'm gonna call this Japanese territory. And we'll make our way. And my next flight.
Lazy Lima 123, exit runway when able.
My next flight is definitely going to be landing in Japan. So I'll do probably one last good long haul. It's about 150 miles to mainland Japan from here, going directly south. And yeah, then we're going to begin some serious touring around. 6 weeks. I can't even count the number of thousands of miles I've traveled. Almost 50 hours of flight. And here we are. Basically on the other side of the world from where I started. In a Cessna 172. My plane's name is the Pixel. I go by the handle Pixelazy. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.
Lazy Lima 123, exit runway when able. Lazy Lima 123, contact ground on 127.7.
127.7 Lazy Lima 123.